Let me hit you with something raw. Everything you think you know about truth might just be a lie. Yes, even that sacred, untouchable concept of truth itself. And who better to expose this than Voltaire, the master provocateur of the Enlightenment? This is the man who declared war on dogma with nothing but a pen and a wit sharper than any sword. But here's the twist. Voltaire wasn't just a rebel. He wasn't just poking holes in the fabric of the world to watch it unravel. He was hiding something, a secret so profound it threatened to destroy the foundations of belief, power, and even identity. And no, this isn't some dusty historical footnote. It's a revelation that still echoes today, buried in the noise of our own lies. So what was it? What did Voltaire see that made kings fear him, the church despise him, and even his closest allies question him? And here's the bigger question. Are you ready to face it? Let me ask you something. Have you ever stopped to think about where your beliefs come from? Not the surface level ones like whether you prefer tea or coffee, but the big ones. The beliefs that define you. What you stand for. What you're willing to fight for. Have you ever traced them back to their roots? If you're honest, the answer is probably no. And you're not alone. Most of us don't. Why would we? It's uncomfortable, messy, and honestly kind of terrifying. But here's the thing Voltaire did. And what he found wasn't just unsettling, it was revolutionary. Voltaire looked at society and saw a web of lies so deeply woven that people mistook it for reality. Religion told people what to worship. Monarchies told them who to obey. Social norms dictated what was acceptable. And people just followed. Why? Because questioning those truths felt dangerous. Questioning meant stepping outside the comfort of certainty and into the wilderness of doubt. And here's the irony. Most of the truths we cling to aren't truths at all. They're conveniences. Stories handed down from people in power who needed us to believe them so they could stay in control. Voltaire called this out with ruthless precision. He didn't just challenge the church or the monarchy, he challenged the very idea that truth could be dictated by anyone other than yourself. But let's bring this into the present, shall we? Because this isn't just history. This is you right now. Think about the truths you live by today. Maybe you believe success means working yourself to the bone, climbing some corporate ladder because that's what society told you to do. Maybe you believe happiness is something you can buy if you just have the right car, the right house, the right clothes. Or maybe you believe that you're not good enough because someone, a parent, a teacher, a boss, once made you feel small. Here's the brutal reality. None of those beliefs are yours. They were handed to you. And like most of us, you accepted them without question because it felt easier than rejecting them. But let me ask you this, are they working for you? Voltaire would argue they're not. He believed that living by unexamined truths is the greatest tragedy of human existence. Why? Because it keeps us trapped. Trapped in systems that don't serve us. Trapped in roles we didn't choose. Trapped in lives that feel safe but hollow. And here's the scariest part. Most people will live their entire lives without ever realizing it. They'll go to their graves thinking they lived authentically, when in reality, they were just following a script written by someone else. Voltaire saw this for what it was, a prison. But not a prison of walls and bars. A prison of the mind. And the worst part? We're the ones holding the keys. Now take a moment. Breathe. Sit with this. Because this is where the discomfort sets in, isn't it? The idea that everything you've built your life on might not be real. But before you panic, let me offer you something Voltaire understood better than most. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. Because the moment you start questioning those inherited truths, the moment you let yourself feel the weight of the lie, you also open the door to something extraordinary. Freedom. But that freedom comes with a price. And it starts with a question that's as simple as it is terrifying. What if everything you believe is wrong? Are you brave enough to find out? Doubt. It's an uncomfortable word, isn't it? We're taught to avoid it, to see it as a weakness, a crack in the armor of certainty. But for Voltaire, doubt wasn't a flaw, it was a weapon. A dagger he wielded with precision to cut through the illusions that bound humanity. And here's the thing, that dagger is just as sharp today as it was in the 18th century. Let's face it, certainty feels good. It's safe, comforting, like a warm blanket on a cold night. But have you ever stopped to wonder what lies beneath that blanket? What truths, or lies, you might be hiding from yourself? Voltaire did. He understood something that most people miss. Certainty can be a prison. When you're absolutely sure of something, your beliefs, your traditions, your identity, you stop questioning. You stop learning. And when you stop learning, you stop growing. Take a moment to think about your own life. How often do you cling to certainty simply because doubt feels too dangerous? Maybe it's in your career. You stay in a job you hate because the idea of starting over is terrifying. Or in your relationships. where you accept less than you deserve because questioning the status quo might mean facing heartbreak. Or maybe it's in your beliefs, about the world, about yourself, because questioning them would force you to confront truths you're not ready to face. Voltaire would argue that this kind of certainty isn't just limiting, it's toxic. It blinds us to new possibilities, new perspectives, new truths. And that blindness? It's exactly what those in power want. Think about it. Throughout history, the most oppressive systems have thrived on certainty. Religion told people, this is the only way to salvation. Monarchies declared, this is your place in the world. Societies enforced, these are the rules and you will follow them. Certainty kept people in line. Doubt, on the other hand, was dangerous, revolutionary. That's why Voltaire loved it. For him, doubt wasn't just a tool, it was a philosophy. Doubt, he wrote, is an uncomfortable condition, but certainty is absurd. Because here's the thing, certainty pretends to have all the answers, but doubt asks the questions that matter. And questions? They're the seeds of change. But doubt isn't easy. It's messy, uncomfortable, even painful. It forces you to confront the possibility that the world isn't what you thought it was, that you aren't who you thought you were. And yet, it's only through doubt that we find clarity. Voltaire knew this firsthand. He didn't set out to destroy people's beliefs, he set out to free them, to make them question the systems that controlled their lives. The church called him a heretic. The monarchy called him a troublemaker. But to the people he inspired, he was a liberator. And here's the thing, you don't need to be a philosopher to use doubt as a weapon. You just need to be willing to ask the hard questions. Why do I believe what I believe? Who benefits from my certainty? What would happen if I let go of it? This isn't easy work. Doubt is uncomfortable for a reason. It forces you to step into the unknown. But that unknown? It's where life happens. It's where growth happens. It's where freedom begins. Because when you start to doubt, you start to see. And when you start to see, you start to change. And isn't that what we're all searching for? Change. Transformation. The chance to become something more. So here's the challenge. Stop clinging to the comfort of certainty. Pick up Voltaire's dagger. Embrace the power of doubt. And watch as the illusions that have held you back begin to crumble. Are you ready to cut through the lies? To question everything you've been told? To step into the chaos and see what's on the other side? If so, you're already further along than most. Because doubt isn't the enemy. It's the beginning of something extraordinary. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Voltaire wasn't just playing intellectual games when he wielded doubt like a weapon. He was exposing something far more insidious, the fragility of the systems we've built our lives around. Here's a thought experiment for you. What happens when a single thread is pulled from a tapestry? If the thread is minor, the damage is small, but what if that thread is the foundation? What if it's the one thing holding the entire structure together? Voltaire understood this metaphor intimately. He knew that much of society, the traditions, the hierarchies, the institutions, was a delicate web of carefully constructed lies. Lies about power, lies about morality, lies about truth itself. And he knew something else too. It only takes one question, one doubt to start unraveling it all. Think about the lies we live with today. The lie that success equals happiness. The lie that suffering is a sign of weakness. The lie that some lives are worth more than others because of their wealth, their nationality, their skin color. These lies are so deeply ingrained in our systems and minds that we barely recognize them as lies. But here's the terrifying part. We organize our entire lives around them. And when those lies are exposed, the world shakes. Voltaire lived this reality in the 18th century, but the lesson is timeless. Look at any moment of upheaval in history, and you'll find a lie that was finally revealed. The civil rights movement revealed the lie of racial superiority. Feminism revealed the lie of gender inequality. Every revolution, every awakening begins with someone brave enough to call out the lie and say, this is not the truth. But let's bring this down to a personal level because it's not just systems and societies that rely on lies. It's us. Yes, you, me, all of us. How many lies do we tell ourselves to avoid facing the uncomfortable truth? You might tell yourself that you're fine with your job when deep down, you know it's killing your soul. Or that your relationship is perfect when, in reality, you're both just going through the motions. Or that you're happy when you've simply numbed yourself to the pain of dissatisfaction. Voltaire knew this too. He saw that the lies we live with on a societal level are just magnified versions of the lies we tell ourselves. And here's the kicker. The more you lie to yourself, the harder it becomes to see the truth. You build an empire of self-deception, brick by brick, until one day you're trapped inside it. But here's the paradox. Those lies we cling to so desperately, they're fragile. The tiniest crack can bring the entire structure down. And that's where Voltaire's brilliance shines. He didn't need to shout or rage against the world. All he needed to do was ask the right question. What is truth? Who decides it? And more importantly, who benefits from the lies you've been told? Once you start asking these questions, you can't unask them. Once you see the lies for what they are, you can't pretend they're true. And that's why the powers of Voltaire's time feared him. He wasn't a threat because of his intellect, he was a threat because he showed people how fragile their illusions really were. But let's be honest, seeing through the lies is terrifying. It's like standing on the edge of a cliff and realizing that the ground you've been walking on was never solid. The safety, the certainty, it was all an illusion. And yet, in that moment, something incredible happens. You see the truth. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It's nothing like the neat, tidy answers you've been fed. But it's real. And once you see it, you can't go back. You realize that the empire of lies wasn't protecting you, it was trapping you. And in its collapse, you find something you didn't expect: freedom. So ask yourself this: what lies are holding you back? What truths are you too scared to face? And what would happen if you stopped clinging to the fragile empire and let it crumble? The answers won't be easy. They might even hurt. But as Voltaire would say, the truth is worth it. Because only when the lies are exposed can you start to build something real, something solid, something that lasts. Let's imagine this. You're standing in the ruins of an empire, the smoke still rising from the wreckage of lies you've lived by. At first it's terrifying. You feel exposed, vulnerable, like you've lost everything familiar. But then something shifts. You notice something you couldn't see before, something the walls of deception were blocking. The horizon. Open. Limitless. This is what Voltaire was after. Not destruction for its own sake, but liberation. The kind of freedom that only comes when you stop clinging to falsehoods and start embracing what's real. But here's the thing about truth: it's not cozy. It's not the soft, comforting blanket you wrap around yourself at night. It's raw, sharp-edged, and sometimes brutally indifferent. Truth doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care if you're ready for it. But it's also the only foundation strong enough to build a life worth living. So how do we get there? How do we rebuild after the lies crumble? Voltaire gives us a clue, not in what he said, but in how he lived. His life wasn't perfect. He was exiled, humiliated, and betrayed. But through it all, he clung to one guiding principle: the relentless pursuit of understanding. Think about that for a moment. How often do we settle for easy answers instead of digging deeper? How often do we choose comfort over clarity, distraction over discovery? Voltaire rejected that. He embraced the messiness of truth, knowing that it was the only way to find real meaning. But let's not romanticize this journey. Seeking the truth isn't some noble, linear path. It's messy, painful, and often isolating. You'll lose things along the way: illusions, relationships, maybe even parts of yourself. But what you gain is worth infinitely more: clarity, integrity, and the freedom to live authentically. Here's where it gets interesting. The truth doesn't just liberate you, it empowers you. Once you stop living in fear of being wrong or exposed, you become unshakable. No one can control you with lies, manipulate you with fear, or shame you into submission. Because you've already faced the worst, the collapse of the illusions you once held dear, and survived. But there's another layer to this, one that Voltaire understood deeply. Truth isn't just about knowledge, it's about action. Knowing the truth is one thing, living it is another. And this is where most people falter. What? Because living the truth is hard. It means standing up for what's right, even when it's unpopular. It means questioning authority, challenging norms, and sometimes walking away from the safety of the crowd. It's easier to conform, to play along, to pretend. But Voltaire didn't believe in easy. He believed in courage. And here's the paradox. The more you align your life with the truth, the lighter you feel. It's not the weight of the lies that crush us, it's the act of carrying them. When you let go of that burden, you find a strength you didn't know you had. So what does this mean for you? It means asking the hard questions and being brave enough to face the answers. It means holding yourself accountable even when it hurts. It means looking in the mirror and refusing to flinch, even when the reflection isn't what you hoped for. But most of all, it means understanding that truth isn't a destination, it's a process. A commitment to constant growth, questioning, and evolution. You'll never have all the answers, and that's okay. The point isn't to be right, it's to be real. Voltaire's secret wasn't that he exposed the world's greatest lie, it's that he showed us how to live without lies altogether. And in doing so, he gave us a blueprint for freedom. So let me leave you with this. What's the one truth you've been avoiding? The one thing you know deep down but are too afraid to admit? Start there. Peel back the layers one by one. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because in the end, the truth isn't just what sets you free, it's what makes you unstoppable. And that's the legacy Voltaire wanted for all of us.